Okay, going with another tier list here. I'm not going to do the whole tier list thing on the screen. I'm going to instead just use a Microsoft Word document to go with these tiers because I want to kind of talk about all of them together. I don't want to spend too long on each player, but yeah, I thought this could be a fun video. This is the all-time great quarterbacks tier list. So it's if you're on this list, you've already, accomplished what you want to accomplish. You're considered one of the greats, but it is fun to compare greats against each other. So let's get into the all-time great quarterback tier list. First tier is the deserve to be mentioned tier list, which it means, again, I feel like when we're doing the all-time greats, we should talk about you. It should be mentioned, but I don't know if I would put you any higher. So you have Ben Roethlisberger. I did decide to put him on. You could argue against him, but I decided to. Jim Kelly, Dan Fouts. Joe Namath, again, definitely someone who the hype around him is probably bigger than the play itself. But hey, this is the guy who did obviously very famously win a Super Bowl, one of the most famous Super Bowls ever in Super Bowl III. Also was a first-team All-Pro. So he deserves to be mentioned, I think. And of course, who knows if the NFL is what it is today without him being able to help pull off that upset in Super Bowl III. Y.A. Tittle, Kurt Warner, I put on the list, Frank Tarkenton, Ken Stabler, and Troy Aikman. Aikman's a weird one because obviously he has the, my camera went, out of focus for a second. Aikman obviously has the hardware of 3 Super Bowl victories. He doesn't have, never been a first team All-Pro, never won an MVP, but also that was kind of his job, was to be more of a facilitator. So I don't know. He deserves to be mentioned on the list. I think that's fair. Next, we have easy all-time great. So this is like a step above, just deserves to be mentioned, which again is still a great thing to be at. I decided to put Warren Moon here, who again doesn't necessarily meet the full criteria that some of these other guys do, just due to he never won an MVP, he never made it to a Super Bowl, but also he won 5 Grey Cups in the Canadian Football League because they essentially people didn't really want to have a black quarterback at that time. They didn't trust that he would work in the NFL. Clearly he did, and you wonder if that didn't kind of hurt his career. Would he have more hardware at the NFL level? Bart Starr, one of the immediate quarterbacks who won a lot of NFL championships, then won the first 2 Super Bowls as well with the Packers. Steve Young, who won a championship with the 49ers. Roger Staubach, Terry Bradshaw, who again, similar to Aikman, might not have a ton of the hardware outside of the 4 championships, which is pretty good. But ultimately, I do still think that he's the big arm and his ability to make certain throws in certain situations, along with yes, he was a facilitator because of their defense being so good. I'm okay with putting him on the easy all-time greats list. Again, 4 Super Bowls. I think you got it. That's a bit. I don't know why, but that just feels different than 3 as well. Because I guess it's because it's tied for second most among quarterbacks. But then John Elway, who there's been this push for I feel like every year someone looks at his Pro Football Reference page and says, "Oh wow, he stunk. His numbers aren't that good." But John Elway, again, it's kind of weird because I was not there during this time, right? I'm 29 years old, so a lot of these quarterbacks, it's very much based on what I've read about these quarterbacks, and I have gone back and watched film. There's a period of my life when that's just what I was doing, was as a hobby, was watching old film of old quarterbacks. So I have seen a decent amount of John Elway tape, which a little sad that was a hobby of mine, but nonetheless, it's worked out for a video like this. Elway is one of those players, though, that the numbers do not tell the whole story. John Elway was consistently doing what he could with a lot of those teams, and ultimately had a team good enough to win a Super Bowl and then do it again the following year. But yeah, Elway is an easy all-time great, and I think that you can make a strong argument he should be higher than this, but this is where I put him. Next tier is there are people who call them the GOAT tier. So these are I'm not sure if you have a great claim to being in the GOAT conversation, but you have there's an argument, right? You can make an argument, construct one if you want to. Dan Marino, who again, the statistics he put up back in the day were incredible, possibly the best pure thrower of the football. A bit of a shorter peak than some of the other guys. Again, we're comparing all-time legends here, so it's hard to get too nitpicky here, but it's kind of what you got to do. Brett Favre, who another guy who there has been a push against Brett Favre, and like from a personal standpoint, you kind of understand it. But like, I don't know, Favre is someone who he won 3 straight MVPs and a Super Bowl in that stretch, one of the all-time great like runs we've ever seen, and still had some very good years, including a great year with Minnesota. Yeah, he put the ball in harm's way, but you know what? That philosophy worked out more than it didn't. You would have loved more than one Super Bowl, but they nearly got more than one Super Bowl at times here. So yeah, Favre is, I think an underrated player at this point. People have talked about Jordan Love, like, oh, he's more Brett Favre than Aaron Rodgers. Like, Brett Favre was a great player, one of the best of all time. Drew Brees, who, again, as a Tampa Bay fan, I saw way too much of Drew Brees playing good football over the years because he would dominate against us. Everyone dominated against us because we were so bad, but until 2020. But Brees was another level, and his quick processing mixed with, for my money, he's the most accurate quarterback I've ever seen play. The consistent accuracy is unlike anything you will see, in his pocket awareness as well. Just incredible from Drew Brees. Those years where they would go 7-9 every year, and he's putting up 5,000 yard seasons, consistently making things work. Definitely a big Drew Brees guy. I should mention as well, should have mentioned this earlier, these are in no particular order. The tiers are in order, but the player rankings are just whatever, wherever I happen to throw them on. Mahomes, I'm going to put Mahomes in this tier for now. Again, Mahomes has already put himself in this tier, and the guy's going to be 30 next season, so, like, that's ridiculous that he is there. I don't think we can quite put him higher than anyone, in a higher tier, just because, like, again, 3 Super Bowls, 2 MVPs, that's ridiculous stuff, but that's not, if he retired today, he's not higher than the other guys, in my opinion, but he's still great. And then Aaron Rodgers, who, again, 3 MVPs and a Super Bowl victory himself. Similar to Favre, not everyone's cup of tea, not everyone likes him, but I mean, again, the guy has made maybe the most impressive throws in the history of the league. Again, people will use the argument of, well, he doesn't play great from behind. Well, he's very rarely playing from behind because how good he's been over his career. So that is there are people who call them the GOAT tier. Next tier is the claim to the throne tier. These are the guys who I think you can make a strong argument for being the greatest in football history, and you see definitely some guys that I had to do some research on, right? These are not all guys that I have not grinded a ton of Johnny Unitas tape. I watched what I can, but Johnny Unitas, again, a guy who won 3 NFL championships. This is sort of prior to the Super Bowl era. He did win Super Bowl 5 with the Colts. Was also a 3-time MVP, a 5-time All-Pro at the quarterback position. Definitely one of the elite guys from his era. Then we have another Colts player. Again, Unitas was with the Baltimore Colts. Peyton Manning with the Indianapolis Colts. Peyton Manning, again, guy won 5 MVPs. That's the most in football history. Yes, only 2 Super Bowls, and one was kind of by his defense. And even in the Bears game, his numbers weren't great, but the Bears were a weird team where they were all defense, no offense. So you wouldn't have expected dominant stats from that game. But again, the playoff narrative is a fair narrative. But this guy was undeniable. He was probably the best regular season quarterback ever. Like, I think that he just was the best regular season quarterback ever. He had some games in the playoffs where he didn't live up to the hype. He also had some very good games in the playoffs as well. The 2006 game against the Patriots to come back and win the conference championship game to set up that Bears Super Bowl victory. Like, he had some moments. So I think the biggest knock against him was just he was going up against Tom Brady, who was known for his playoff moments, although Manning had a winning record against Brady there. So yeah, he has a claim to the throne. Joe Montana, who kind of was the undisputed GOAT for a while. Not undisputed, but he was the disputed GOAT, I guess I would say. A guy who 4-0 in Super Bowls. I think the knock against him is when I do go back and watch him play in particular, I'm like, man, that scheme, that just feels like something out of 2025. Like, that just feels like a today offense. Like, it's crazy how ahead of their time that 49ers team was. But But yeah, I mean, okay, so he was in a great situation, but he still made the most of it. And again, won 4 Super Bowls. Only two other quarterbacks can say that. One was Bradshaw. One we will get to in a second. But first, let's go to Sammy Baugh, who was a very unique player, a guy who maybe not a lot of people know about. A stat one of my favorite stats is that one year he led the league in, I believe it was passer rating. He led the league in longest punt that season and most interceptions. To be clear, I'm not saying he threw the most interceptions. He caught the most interceptions because he played back before there was unlimited substitutions, meaning you had to stay out for offense, defense, and special teams, and he was elite at all 3 of those things. Still a great quarterback in his own right. 4-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time NFL champion. I think that he does not get enough love when we do the GOAT discussion, which makes sense because he played in the 40s, so I get it. But he deserves some credit here. And then finally, Otto Graham is my last claim to the throne guy, a guy who, again, was a 3-time most valuable player, was a 3-time NFL champion as well. Never played long enough to get into the Super Bowl era, but was one of the all-time greats before the Super Bowl era began. So those are the claim to the throne guys, but there can only be one GOAT, and I think we all know who it is. It's hard to go against Brady, right? I mean, again, when you're comparing these accolades, and you're like, well, this guy won 4 Super Bowls, and that's like standing out above the crowd. Tom Brady won nearly double that. He won 7. I mean, you're talking about 3 Super Bowls puts you maybe in the claim to at least there are going to be people who call you the GOAT if you win 3 Super Bowls, right? Usually, Aikman, I didn't do that. Bradshaw didn't do that, so I guess not exactly. But we talk about how much that matters, and Brady is 3 Super Bowls above whoever is next. People with Mahomes are talking well, if he can win 8, what are we even talking about? 8, Brady's 7 is ridiculous. Let's not forget the guy still has been a consistently great player in the regular season as well. And yes, he has been on some great teams, but he changed team and won there. He leads in every significant category, passing yards, passing touchdowns, all of that stuff. I think you can make an argument that on a year in and year out basis, there have been players who have rivaled him, right? I think you take Rodgers' best year and Brady's best year, what's better? You take Peyton Manning's best year and Brady's best year, what's better? Or you just take one of their average years, an average Peyton Manning year or an average Tom Brady year, what's better? You can argue other people over Brady. But the difference is Brady played until he was 45. So not only does he have that you can argue that he was best on an average year to begin with, but he has the playoff success and he has the longevity and the extra 6 or 7 years that he has over all these other guys of still playing at an incredibly high level where his team was still winning Super Bowls. That's kind of what puts him in the clear-cut GOAT discussion, in my opinion. If he had 5, when he won 5, it's okay, he's probably the GOAT. You're at 7 now. Yeah, it's not impossible to argue against him, but it's difficult too. So that's why he is in the top tier, in my opinion. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.